Rob, we talked about Jeff Saturday ad nauseum, getting this job coaching the Colts. And look, you got to give him credit. It doesn't mean he's going to do a good job and
things are
going to go swimmingly the rest of the way. But still, I mean, I got to give him credit. Now, again, it might not have been him. He clearly, his presence, maybe being a former player, being one of their stars with the Colts, winning a Super Bowl, clearly they were energized by his presence. I'm sure he obviously delegated virtually everything probably to his coaches, but I got to give him at least some credit. But Reggie Wayne, Rob, who, one of their legendary wide receivers with the Colts, he's a wide receivers coach on that staff. And he was asked if he would have taken the job had it been offered to him. He's only been the receivers coach for 1 year. And he said, of course, why wouldn't I? That's why when Jeff took it, I was like, he's supposed to take it. He's not going to turn it down. Everybody knows if you're in Walmart or you're somewhere shopping and there's a long line and you know somebody up there, TSA in the airport, you're like, hey, I'm going to avoid this line.
He's right.
So here's what I want to throw at you, Rob. And again, I'm not saying this is going to be the case. But let's say, hypothetically, for the sake of discussion, that Jeff Saturday does a really good job. And whether they make the playoffs or they get close, he's winning the majority of his games this year. Maybe he comes back next year and they're a good team because they were expected to be a good team this year. Right. So let's say next year they're good and they're en route to making the playoffs. And Rob, it's a copycat league in a lot of ways. Would you be okay if it became, owners are looking at it like, you know what? These players can do it. And it's not about ex-players, right? Because Frank Reich was an ex-player. Tony Dungy was an ex-player.
Thank you, Chris.
Bill Cowher, right? I mean, so you've had ex-players. Art Shell.
Stop acting like coach. This is brand new, right, Chris. This ain't brand new.
It's not. What's brand new is that he never, didn't pay any dues as far as coaching.
That's it. It had nothing to do with whether or not, it's good to see a player in there.
Right. I was like, what are dudes talking about?
Exactly. Well, you know what? That's a knock at Bill Belichick and guys who never made it. You know what I mean? Chris, those guys who have never played in the league.
He was a D3 player, so he didn't get close.
But you know what I'm saying? But guys like that who have gone on, we've seen it all over. A lot of the NBA coaches were guys who never played in the league, Chris.
Right.
And here's the problem I have is I'm going to have a problem with it because owners usually pick people who they have a relationship with or friends with. And my gut is going to tell me that there are going to be few black guys in that skip the line mode. Well, that's the issue I'm going to have.
That goes without saying. Okay. Here's my question I want to get to you.
But you got me on that, right?
If Saturday does, absolutely. But my point is this, if Saturday does a good job and they begin, I mean, it's not going to be a stream of them just hiring, ex-players that retired and they don't have to coach on, on any level. But if they start hiring a few guys that were ex-players, and it's racially, balanced, and not a Ray Lewis, but I'm just saying it ain't even fair with the thing the way they got it now.
I know.
Because the question I want to get to is not the racial one. The question I want to ask you is, would you be okay if you begin to see some NFL coaches hired who were ex-players who, just like a Steve Kerr or an Aaron Boone, who never coached before on any level. But they were a great leader when they played. A Phillip Rivers. I don't know if some of these guys coach high schools, but that's fine. But, say they hired a Phillip Rivers. Say when Aaron Rodgers retires, if he got hired, I don't even think he wants to coach. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
Like if they started hiring players to be head coaches pretty much right away or within a few years of their retirement, and they didn't pay any coaching dues. And again, it was racially balanced. Maybe you see a black player or two get that opportunity. Would you be okay with that, guys skipping the line as we see in the NBA or Major League Baseball sometimes?
Yeah. I want to say yes, but I know once you open this door, what's going to happen. And that's where, and because we just saw it with Reggie Wayne. I mean, we just saw it, Chris.
Well, again, Rob, I don't want to, because that's a whole separate conversation.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because I want everybody to have to go through the same circumstances to at least be fair. And I don't think
it's not fair, though.
I don't.
They're doing it now, supposedly, and it's still not fair.
Yeah, I know, but I think this is worse. I say no. This will open up a bad can of worms, and I say no. I don't want to see it.
I would not have a problem with it. Now, again, if it's not fair racially and you see 8 coaches who were ex-players hired right away without paying coaching dues and they're all white, I'm totally with you. And I think the league, before it even got to that, I think the league would make the Rooney Rule applicable to this. Because it would be if it's not an interim situation as it is. So I don't even know, Rob, that unless they just kept hiring interim coaches, it wouldn't even be possible. Well, they'd have to at least interview some black candidates.
Right.
But I'm just saying, my problem with Saturday's hiring was that I didn't think it was even possible, and it still may not be. I mean, it was only one game. I just thought, and we said it, Rob, it's so much more difficult to coach in the NFL than the NBA or Major League Baseball. And my main problem was with it was that this is ridiculous. Like, how in the world, like, really? He's going to be able to coach an NFL team with no experience whatsoever except at the high school level? But if he proves it can be done, and look, if he fails, it doesn't mean necessarily it can't be done.
Right,
if he's,
right.
But so I get it. It's not all on him. But I'm just saying, if he does succeed, it shows, you know what? It certainly can be done. Yeah. Then I would be fine, because that happens all over in all types of industries.
Okay, so I got my first radio show in Detroit in 1994, Chris, right? And I had never had a show. I had never done radio. Like, I didn't have a. I never had a
trained
show.
in it or anything.
No, I was never trained. But I had been on a lot of other people's shows, and that's how I got hired, because they heard me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but that's not experience. I'm the same way.
I'm saying that. I didn't have experience. I'm with you.
You're right. So we were similar. In that I was not trained in radio. I was not trained in television. Rob, we know most of the guys who started out as writers, who are on television, guys and gals, we're not trained in television.
No.
We can say, and I think it's true, that because we were reporters,
yes,
we were journalists, we were around the sports, around coaches, around players, that was our experience, so to speak, right? And Rob, it takes credibility for people to want to listen to you. That gave us credibility too. Okay.
Even if we weren't formally trained to do television. And
or radio.
Or radio. You learn how to do it as you go along. And then there are other people who is there all life. They only want to be on radio, and they go to school and all that. And I'm sure that there were plenty, Chris. Look, there are plenty of TV guys who were mad when the Mike Wilbons and the Skip Baylesses and the Chris Broussard and the Jamel Hills, and plenty of radio guys were like, I've been working in Wisconsin my whole life trying to get to the network or trying to get whatever.
Absolutely.
And they put Chris Broussard and Rob Parker on. I get that. I do.
And I think, just like you and I said, and I think it's fair and true, that we got our training by being reporters. I think a football player, a Jeff Saturday, would say, yeah, and I got my training by being a player. And I think that's right, if they can do it. And again, I don't know that they can. But Mark Jackson, when he said, I'm not going to be an assistant coach, I was a coach on the floor as a player for 15 years or however long he played. Right. He's right. Larry Bird, Steve Kerr, Aaron Boone, Rob. My issue was I just thought football was too complicated for coaches to step right in and do it
still
like
that. And it still might be, right. Chris, because he won game one,
agreed,
doesn't mean that he was the guy pulling all the and we had who did we have on this week, Chris? NFL guy.
Well, Rod Woodson and Hushmanzada. And remember, Rod said players have said when we played 12, 15 years, we know we would be better coaches than some of these guys coaching us.
Right. Randy. No, when we had Randy on.
Oh, Randy Mueller.
Yeah, Randy Mueller, Chris. He said that you probably got to tip your cap to the other coaches who were on the staff because everybody else was intact. And so things didn't change that much. And he had a new play caller who had never called plays. And they ran the football, right? You know what? Like, they ran the football. It wasn't like they came up with some exotic.
But he did make the quarterback change.
No. He did. He put the guy.
Like, he went there and put in Matt Ryan. He went to the owner and said, look, I want to start Matt Ryan. And so, I get what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. But that would be the case regardless. You're always going to lean on your coordinators, lean on your position coaches. So it's interesting, but the bottom line is I wouldn't, if it becomes a thing, as long as it's racially fair and balanced, then I would be fine with it if these guys can actually do the job.